Good evening. Welcome to Investigator News, and I'm your host, Ellie. Tonight is Corruption Files, and we have been doing a little bit on the Clintons and the boys on the track. And I received a lot of files from the Linda Ives people, and amongst it was a file that I found very interesting. It was CIA files. And then I went to a website that they suggested, and I got more information and more documents. And so tonight, um, it's really odd because the files I got put a wrap up on what was going on with the boys on the track and the CIA at that time, but further dealings of the CIA, even up until the end of the Obama era. And I didn't get nothing on Trump. It just went all the way through Obama. And so tonight, you guys are going to get a real awakening of what the CIA has been a part of and been doing all these years. And, I always thought CIA were like these spies, and uh, they would go over and get info that would help us, not to create havoc, chaos in our streets. And as we found with January 6th, there was FBI and CIA in that crowd that day. And it seems they have changed roles from spies to chaos. And I welcome all of our new viewers. So you might have to go back and catch a little bit of the boys on the track, and or last weeks where I talk about what the CIA was doing during the Clinton administration. We do welcome our new viewers. And we have Karen as our moderator in the chat room. And please feel free to jump in our chat room and ask a question or a comment, and we'll try to get you up on the board to where you can be seen and your question can be seen or comment. And hi to Karen and Susan. And I'm going to get going on this. So the Clinton cartel connection. It was to keep the borders open for money laundering through the CIA from the Clinton presidency. And it was an easier way for money to move around from the guns to the drugs to the human trafficking, as I spoke on last week. And the CIA, about the time that they got Barry Seal and the boys on the track happened, they seemed to transfer their focus. And it really even took a 360 when the directive became part of 9/11. And then it really got pretty quiet in the documents I received. And we had Clinton and the State Department controlling the DOJ, the FBI, the CIA. They were all her friends, folks. As I've told you before, they moved their friends to Washington. And if you watch some of my news, you'll see that they put their friends in high places to where it protects them and what they're doing and the corruption. Now, we talk about Clinton and her State Department. That was during the Obama years. Now, during the Bush years, it was basically establishing a very close relationship with the Bush family for the Clintons. And there was many times that they went and did family gatherings. They went to barbecues. They took vacations together. They were very, very close. And a lot of people really didn't realize that. And things changed in 1989 Panama. That's what I'm going to say. And the United States, when they invaded Panama, it overthrows its own people down there. And it was only because they wanted to put the right people in place. Now it was a CIA paid asset of 20 years. And they were going through a dictator and cocaine, drug lords. And of course, I mentioned last week about General Emmanuel Noriega. And it even goes into El Chapo. And that gets the drug connection to Mexico for the drugs to come over the border, and as well as human trafficking. And then we seen gun trafficking, starting with Eric Holder and Obama during the Obama years. And the CIA was a big part of that. And so when I moved along, the next thing I found in these documents was the CIA Afghanistan. And it was a plan that Afghanistan was pretty much um, the right for someone to have the central agency of the sort of outlining the war plan if it breaks out, um, because of the fact of Iraq. Now, the CIA was a very small portion of Iraq. And the reason Iraq is all covered up is because the things that Bush did and then the things Obama did. And so everything's pretty classified. And the documents I received, for the most part, were redacted. And I got lots of black pages. And so really it doesn't open up and let me see what was going on until it was Afghanistan. And it breaks all the rules of the job of the CIA to inform us, um, and to have a transparency in our own presidency, which it didn't. And now we do hear that we had soldiers protecting the poppies, and we had, uh, but see, that wasn't the big thing that was going on. Um, and the CIA was not making, uh, they weren't sticking to the policies. And we find that out with the chief for Pakistan and Afghanistan. Um, his name was Robert Grenier, and he was responsible for designing the Afghanistan war plan following 9/11 attacks. Now, realize 9/11 attacks, we were after bin Laden. And so that's what drove us to go after not only the Taliban, but Al Qaeda from Kandahar. And this was a stunning turn of events. Um, Basically, we had a lot of um, intel and reports that I was looking at from a veteran intelligence officer that was captured. So, of course, that would be part of the CIA reports. And it captured in vivid detail of uh, basically 88 days, it says, to Kandahar. And um, and he basically, when he filled out um, um, what was going on, he was talking about in this document that it was the longest post 9/11 war, and not only that, but it brought in Pakistan, and the CIA was moving over to Pakistan. And what I found very interesting is stuff I found on my own quite a few years ago hunting ISIS. And what I found was Adam Schiff kept going to Pakistan at this time. And so now it does make sense to me of what Adam Schiff was doing in Pakistan. And it was basically for, they were looking for the next uprise. Um, when they took, when we bombed Iraq, then it was, we were about taking down the Middle East. And I don't know why. I found no rhyme or reason for this. Oh yeah, where is everybody's out celebrating tonight, Judith? Uh, we got chat going strong with a few of them. So if you're new, come on into chat. All right. So now, if you look at Iraq, and we did the bombing, we tore it up, and then it made way for ISIS to come through um, into Iraq. Well, we had switched our focus over to Pakistan and Afghanistan, and we were looking for bin Laden. And it was because of the narrative that was given to George Bush at the time that it was bin Laden. Bin Laden was responsible. Um, Now, what I seen with the CIA reports on that, the little bits I could get in between the lines, was it took a while for, and this was during Susan Rice was there sitting at the table when Bush was being told it was best to blame 9/11 on bin Laden, and that bin Laden was the guy. We got to go after bin Laden. And that's about all the document said, was he had this meeting. The only name I could make out was Susan Rice. And Bush was there, and Cheney was there. Um, and so it was, there's really nothing on this document. And so it was very interesting that it all opens up during Afghanistan. And so this gentleman that Grenier, he was the chief of the station in Pakistani for a portion, but he was also looking at the Taliban that was occupying Afghanistan, which was 90% of the country. In a sense, about 18 months before 9/11, they were looking at the Taliban and the buildup of not only that, but the Taliban, Al Qaeda, and the rise of ISIS. And so between Pakistan and Afghanistan, this was and Iraq, I'm sorry, let's even add Iraq. This was a breeding ground for terrorism. And this is why they felt they had to take all three countries down. And then they would have control of it, and the terrorists would scatter or they would be killed. The problem with this was it was an OZ thing. How I'm going to put it, they owed Taliban, they owed pretty much the Taliban, not much of Al Qaeda. But and you ask, okay, where did Al Qaeda and ISIS come from? Taliban was the first, and there was a few of the young guys that felt the Taliban was too old, and they kind of separated out, and it became Al Qaeda. Well, they still had a few young 20 to 30-year-olds that were very vicious, and that's where it spawned the third group of ISIS. And so that gives you an idea of what was going on. So between the three terrorist organizations that were building very fast, we could see where they were able to sweep Iraq, and now we are looking at Afghanistan. And the CIA was working very hard to get in with the Taliban, and it was like a tribal rebellion in the South. And they were doing this because they didn't really have a presidential finding, and without a president for these countries, we really couldn't really do much. So we were trying to train the Taliban to fight for us, which wasn't working out well. And some of the veterans that came back and those that fought very hard and came to find out that we were just, I'm going to say, humoring the terrorists at that point. Because there was a rebellion against the United States at that point. And so if you look at the initial goal, if you try to explain this, they were going to colonize Afghanistan with a sort of political dispensation, and the country to be a safe haven to international terrorists. So there was a deal struck up between the CIA and the Taliban, Al Qaeda, that Afghanistan would eventually be a haven to international terrorists. Now look what we got now. Isn't that what we just gave them? Why is that? Because the deal was struck back in the Bush going into Obama years. So it makes sense for what we just did, doesn't it? Um, and we were hoping the Taliban would. It's kind of like what we think with the criminals on the streets. If we let them all out of jail, eventually they'll do so much bad they'll become good. Well, that's what they kind of thought with the Taliban, is that if we lended them and gave them a safe haven, that they would in turn become model citizens. I hate to laugh about it, but you know, that's like, telling the gangs over here, the Bloods, the Crips, and MS-13, okay, now y'all be nice. We're going to give you guys a few blocks that you can control, but you could be nice to us now. And that's basically what they really thought. And I don't know how come our government was so stupid to think this. Um, uh, Karen, you're going to be saying a bunch of stuff tonight. Uh, so for us, they refused any of this up until it was imminent that the American was going to invade. Uh, and that would cause Mullah Omar, the head of the Taliban, to change his mind. And he did not change his mind very quickly. So they worked very hard and very long meetings with his deputy to try to convince him to um, push him along to our side and do what his chief would not. And they briefly agreed to the agreements that we had offered, but it didn't survive. They basically, we ended up returning into Kandahar, and the push to um, start a war with the Taliban. And now the Northern Alliance in the Civil War um, was very important. And at the same time, we had the support of the tribal leaders. Now, the tribal leaders are the ones that Bush went to talk to, and John Kerry, and even Obama and Hillary. We also had McCain that had went over, uh, Cheney, and a few others. And we send our Congress people over a lot of times to deal with a lot of the leaders, um, to get them to sway them to our side and to sway them into, uh, we'll take out a kind of good dictator or president, and we'll put you in power if you do this for us. And it was basically to collapse the Middle East. Um, so the question that they had was, if the United States takes the side of Afghanistan, then what about the Soviet Union? Um, would they withdraw? Um, and Afghanistan, now this is kind of different because we're talking the Mujahideen leaders who had united in the fight against the Soviets and fell to the fighting against one another. So Afghanistan was a complete mess because we were paying the Mujahideen leaders to fight with the Soviets, and this was a terrorist group that came out of Afghanistan. And now if William was in here, he'd be going away in chat right now telling you all about this. And um, so, and we're looking at all these different terrorist organizations now. You remember Biden mentioned this mini ISIS or ISIS 2. Whatever happened to that? It was a farce, folks. Um, there is no ISIS mini group or ISIS takeaway group. It's always been ISIS. And this is what a lot of my reporters are finding out when they were hearing the same thing during the invasion of Syria. Um, and I don't want to get too deep in this because I don't want you guys to lose uh, perspective of what the CIA has been doing all these years, because this is all CIA that's doing a lot of the movement around. They're stirring up not only the Taliban but Al Qaeda. They're getting in and they're becoming part of them and instigating them to act up. What I mean by that is getting the people to rise up and protest. And we've seen this a lot beginning in Iraq. It became more in Afghanistan and Pakistan. But as they moved on to Syria, then we started seeing um, they were able to um, get the people riled up. A lot of them fled and ran, but we had convinced the people and these terrorist organizations to go against Assad at the time. And um, um, so what we're looking at it and everything I just told you, this is all CIA led. Okay, this isn't um, the FBI. This isn't our military. This isn't. This is secret, covert issues that our own CIA was going and getting these terrorist organizations to act, get them to go places, getting them to move country to country to country. Um, and see that I never knew that. I thought they were all acting on their own. But in broad terms of this, we are looking that it's basically um, for to get control of the Middle East, and it was always to go against the Soviet Union. So as we seen everything, we went to Assad, and what we seen was um, when ISIS and all of that, and we all went up to do something about ISIS. We started demonizing Assad. Why? Because we were going to take him down. We were going to totally um, collapse the country, and then we would put in someone that would be in power. And it's all about resources, folks. Because remember Iraq? It was the Kuwait oil. Because if we could get Iraqi oil, that would be more oil for us. If we could get Kuwait to agree with us, we'd get Kuwaiti oil. If we and so forth. So it was Iraq, it was Afghanistan for the terrorists to be on to do further things for us. Then when we moved up into Syria, it was for the resources and gas and to take down Assad. And what do we have up there around Syria? None other than we're looking at Israel, the Palestinians, Hamas, and Hezbollah now. Now we're moving into a different realm of terrorists. And it seems like the CIA was going and collapsing these countries. But in the meantime, we were gaining terrorists that was working with the CIA to do this. And what it was is to collapse um, for a world order. Okay. And what I mean by that is if, like, we keep hearing about this one world order, and we heard it under the Bush administration, right? So um, that's what the CIA was working towards, is a world order. Now they have to collapse the country in order to get the order. And then they would, what they would do is they would start with economic. They would do sanctions. They would take them down. They wouldn't allow them for military, the no-fly zone. They would get them for, they couldn't use their armies. And then we started taking resources away from them. So what's that do to a country? It crumbles it. They can't feed their people. They can't house their people because everything's getting blown up around them. And then what it does is it causes the people to flee. The army moves in. They put in the person they want for a leader. And unfortunately, Assad didn't fall for this. He was going to stand and fight for his country. And the same way with when we look at Benghazi and we look at Arab Spring, we tried that with all them countries, but unfortunately, Gaddafi they took down, and you know they drug him, they beat him almost dead. They drug him through the streets, And then when his pictures were shown all over the TV, what did Hillary say? We came, we saw, we conquered or something. And she laughs. She's laughing while this man is being drugged through the street, bleeding and being beaten to death. Now, granted, we may not like some of these leaders, but you don't do that. And that's Hillary. That shows you the evil in this woman of her that has been in politics for a very long time. And seeing death doesn't bug her, folks. She just, it does not matter to Hillary and Bill Clinton on death. They have seen it, they have ordered it, they breathe it. Um, and everything I've learned about the Clintons, and being very close, they are. It's all about power. It's not the money. They got billions. It's not about the money. It's about the power. It's about the world order. And they have worked with Soros with this for a very long time. Okay, so I want to get back to where we're looking at the fall of Syria, the fall of Iraq, the fall of Afghanistan, the fall of Pakistan. And then she goes, we have her under the State Department going to India. And next thing we know, we see India falling. Um, we've seen Libya, we've seen Africa and Somalia. We see all these countries starting to fall. And the one main connection that I could see in these CIA files is the CIA was there to either cause the people to uprise or protest or go against their leader. And this goes, I mean, we're talking way back in 2001, 2003, and this is during Bush era, because then uh, when we start after Syria and we see, and I'm getting ahead of myself in my notes, we seen after all of that was done, we seen the new insurgency that was coming out of the Middle East, and it was the Islamic extremist. Now, a lot of people think these guys were just plain ISIS. No, these were extremists from all of those different terrorist organizations I just told you about. So this is a mixture. And what did we see coming over here? They were first into the UK, and they were peaceful Muslims, they said. And then of course, since they were peaceful, and not only did Obama say they were peaceful, but he was Muslim. So why not let these Muslims into our country? Not all of them are bad, folks. So then they started flowing in really super hard. And so what did we get out of it? We got the Islamic extremist. And this was, they were basically with the CIA and in control now of the Middle East, and making it accessible for new leaders. Then we put them all in. We had the extremists that came to the United States. We had a whole bunch of other refugees that started flooding in. You remember with Obama, the trainload after trainload. And this was all from the Middle East. So we didn't know who we really let into the country. And that's when we started seeing with Hillary and the State Department and the DOJ, working with the CIA, they were starting to set up camps, and they were talking, these were compounds, and they considered it like a compound like the Mormons or some of these other hippie communes. And they were saying this is all this is. But what we didn't understand was it was the CIA helping them to create training grounds for these terrorists in our own country. Not only that, but we set up a lot of them down in Mexico. And why? How could we get away with Mexico? Because what I told you with the CIA and the drugs, and through the Bill and Hillary Clinton, that they were working with Noriega to work with El Chapo to get it all free and clear for us to be able to do anything to move through Mexico. So this is how come we have terrorism that's flowing from the Middle East up into the United States. And this was early 2000. Well, yeah, so if we've got the Middle East, we still got this thing where we are looking at the next chapter. And so it was very important that the CIA wrap up everything with the early days of Al Qaeda in Afghanistan. And basically, the Taliban were these great leaders that they were working with us to go after ISIS, which wasn't so. So we really, like I said, we really did have to move on to a new chapter going into the Obama years. Well, what the biggest one was, we didn't need another Afghan war, and they were getting kind of unruly at the time. But the terms of the active U.S. military involvement in Afghanistan, it was quite different with President Ghani. And we basically were allowed to leave like 10,000 troops in Afghanistan. That's where you see that we left them. So when Biden came in, there was all those troops and the families and everything over there. And it's because we left them there. Because at the end of going from Bush into the Obama administration, we really thought that we were, and a lot of the generals thought this way, that, okay, we were done in the Middle East and everything was okay. But lo and behold, we didn't realize that it was moving into the next chapter. And we had the CIA at this time. I don't know how they did it, and it's kind of in the documents, it just says that we ended up with Soviet era weapons, and we were getting them by the masses. So we were no longer, if you watched last week's, we were having them made in the United States. We were shipping them to Mexico. Mexico was funneling them back in to the United States, or funneling to like South America or Iran. Well, for some reason, we started stocking up on Soviet era weapons, including they call it the Kalashnikov ammunition, and anti-tank weapons. We began stockpiling and moving everything into Jordan. And they were thinking it was because of the Syrian war. But what we didn't understand is we were getting ready to move all of this equipment from Syria onto the next, like I said, the next chapter. And so, and I don't want to like drag this all out with the CIA and what they were doing in Jordan. It was basically stockpiling. But the other thing we were doing was trying to work with Merkel when she came into power, and try to stockpile weapons into Germany. She wasn't quite for that, though. And they were kind of against it because of the ties with the EU. And what we were telling them is we wanted to go after the Soviet Union. And so what the next chapter was is getting a lot of the Hamas and Hezbollah fighters from Syria to start moving around and creating the chaos once again. See, with the United States and the CIA and our own presidents, once you see the chaos, always know that they're doing something. Like when Obama had all that chaos going with during Trump, and even before with the riots, the BLM and all of that, what we didn't see was a changeover to move on to the next CIA Department of Justice and the State Department chapter. Um, uh, so, um, so the next thing we seen was it was a chaos that was ensuing in a new country. And what was that country? This was in, I believe, 2000, early 2008, 9, and 10, when we had close to 50 CIA and a bunch of um, now um, military contractors. Now, if you watched this with Wednesday night, this is why I brought this up. Uh, uh, Hundreds of these groups and military militia groups from not just us, but from these terrorist groups that moved into where? Where was the next chapter? None other than Ukraine. And we got the first reports where they had people crying and saying they had been hit with tear gas that was sprayed into their eyes, and that this truce has been broken down. And so what happened? We had chaos in the streets of Kiev, um, and in Ukraine. And this was a street battle that erupted between anti-government protesters. This was the CIA. This was paid protesters not from all over the world, folks, and police. And so the president and the opposition leaders demanding um, resignations of not only the president, but different mayors and city police. And they started looking at those that were in charge that wasn't doing anything about these protesters. And they were trying to get to the bottom of it. And so now this only lasted a couple days. And get this, it was one of the bloodiest 3 days ever. This was like, it wasn't just protesters. They were peaceful protesters. Then it erupted very bloody, and they were shooting at each other. And 50 people died and during this 3-day event. And so when they wanted to, the only thing they wanted to do is retake Independence Square in Kyiv. There was nothing. There was nothing about the country. It was nothing about this border. There was nothing about Russia coming in to take anything. It wasn't about the Minsk agreement. This was just protesters in the street causing chaos. And like I said, they were shooting at each other. They got so chaotic. Bodies were being used as barricades. And we've seen it on TV, folks. I don't know if you guys remember. This was probably, it had kind of built up really bad again in 2014-15. So who do we send but um, all of our congressmen over there? McCain was one of them. Schumer went. Quite a few went over there. Lindsey Graham was there. Why would we send Congress people over there into the middle of a protest? Well, they were over there to help, they said. And the Ukrainian parliament, they were basically under attack. They broke into these protesters, and now you remember who these protesters are. These aren't Ukrainian people. These are CIA agents. They're thugs. They're part of the neo-Nazi group, the militia. It was some of the terrorists from all over the country that all emerged on this to cause chaos, to overthrow the government, basically. And it was the next country they were going to take down. Well, so where the Soviet Union isn't even a part of this, folks. This is something that was done all on its own. Um, well, Karen, tape your words up. So the Ukrainian government started announcing a visa ban on 20 members of the Ukrainian government. Um, and also, um, um, and the U.S. is also threatening to place sanctions on the Ukrainian government because of the protests and then being mean to their people and being mean to the protesters. Okay, now you just seen what happened. They caused the chaos, and then here comes the sanctions. Remember, I told you it was on to the next chapter. It was on to the next country they were going to take down. That's us, or not us, our government and the CIA. It's for the world order. And it wasn't called One World Order, folks. It was called World Order because they have to get the world in order before they can make it the One World Order or the reset of what we're seeing today. Because this is 8, 9, 10 years ago, folks, when they were going to take down um, Ukraine. And then, like I said, Russia isn't even a part of this yet. Now, Russia had been fighting, and I've told you about this, on the border since 2008. This had nothing to do with what was going on in Kyiv. So they placed the sanctions, and the Ukrainian government and the protests began, they say, late in um, November when President Yankovic, um, well, he reversed his decision and to sign a long-awaited trade deal with the European Union uh, and to afford stronger ties with Russia. Instead of to talk more, um, the CIA started distorting the information that was coming out of Ukraine. So now you can already see that Ukraine was trying to work with the European Union or the EU for stronger ties with Russia, and so they weren't even for Ukraine at this time. So you're saying, whoa, wait now. See where we're at today? We're Ukraine, the EU, all of them are all for Ukraine, and they're against Russia. Well, the CIA started distorting, and a lot of the documents show that how the American media started putting Putin and Sashi and Ukraine together as this war, which there was none. It was all it was Ukraine was mistreating the Russians. Putin said, come over here. And then when we interfered at that point in 2014, then it erupted. Then it was all of a sudden Russia was the problem. Russia was the issue. Now, I can remember saying back then that I was watching people being shot on the streets on my news. Um, and they don't talk about this no more. That these army protesters started shooting Russians in the street. They started doing mass graves. Uh, some of the mass graves they showed recently, where it was a field, that was the original mass graves of this protest. It wasn't even a protest, folks. And we're finding that when they started seizing weapons against the people, because see, what you had to realize is the people over there had guns, so they started taking their arms away. Now we're giving them back to them, but then we started taking their guns away. It's easier to take over a country if you can take away their guns. And so it was the sanctions, it was the guns. In the meantime, they're letting these people protest and kill one another. And the kind of what we're seeing in Venezuela, because Venezuela was the next one. It was South America. And what started the riots, the chaos, the protests, the sanctions, the food, the gas, is exactly what we did to Ukraine until it fell. Then lo and behold, Zelensky is put in power. And the thing about this, was you guys remember who Victoria Newland? She's the short blonde haired lady. Well, there is phone conversations where she's talking about exactly what I'm saying, and that they had moved into Ukraine to make it part of the world order. And it was to all be blamed on Russia. And why? Um, they only had a few small countries to go. They wanted to do Venezuela, they wanted to do Africa, um, and some of like Cuba, Haiti. Some of the other small ones are going to be really easy because they really don't have a military. They really don't have really good presidents. Um, and to for NATO to step in at this point. And this is what Victoria Newland's telling this guy over the phone. And um, and she's under Biden administration right now. And what she said, it was a coup. She said the Congress people that had went in to Ukraine with the CIA, that this was a coup to become a takeover for the United States, because the United States would then have a country over there in the middle of EU or Europe. And then it would be easier um, for the world order to decide which of the European nation was not going to side with NATO. And if they didn't, they would crush their countries. And so she's admitting this to people that worked at the State Department. Not only that, but even ambassadors over in Ukraine. So, um, yeah, my birds are definitely protesting. They're causing chaos in my show. At least the dog isn't in here. um, So, so now you guys kind of get an idea that what we had done. And then, of course, when Biden gets in office, you see him swinging back around as the cleanup man. And what I mean by that is look at what he did to Afghanistan. Well, we thought, boom, he's going to go in. We're going to get all of our people out. We are not going to let any of this happen, right? And we're going to get all of our people out. The problem is we needed protesters for the next chapter. Do you remember all them people jumping on that plane? Yep. Well, we let all of the people we needed out for protesters, and um, those that knew what was going on in Afghanistan, that were CIA, good CIA, people that informants, whistleblowers, people that worked for our military, they all got left behind. Why? Because they knew something. Unfortunately, they let the people out that um, they knew weren't going to talk about what was going on, and they pulled the rest out to hide them, but also move them over to the United States. Why? Because the only countries left now for the world order is the Soviet Union, the United States, and China. Now, they promised not only Jinping, but Obama world domination. So you can understand why Jinping does what he wants. And Obama and Susan Rice and a few other advisors running what Biden does. I'm not sure. I haven't got the proof to say these people are behind it. But it's really odd that Susan Rice is in the middle of this, and Biden took her on as an advisor. Susan Rice, remember I mentioned all the way back to where? Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. She's been a part of it all this time. And she knows what she's doing. She has got to be one of the most proficient um, leaders of foreign policy, and she knows. And she's like Hillary. She's very evil, I guess. She doesn't mind it being a strong arm. I don't know why. I don't know what kind of power they have decided to give her, But so um, I want to get into Obama and Michelle and their administration, because now what do we see under the Obama? We started seeing the protests, right? We started seeing the chaos. We started seeing them attacking buildings. We started seeing uh, critical race theory being brought in. These are all of the steps, folks, to take down the United States. We're next. We're the next chapter. And I hate to tell everybody that, but we are. We're the next. If they can take us down, it shouldn't be no problem to finish off the Soviet Union. Now, why won't they do China? I'm not really sure. And the CIA documents that I got never did explain any of that. It's always been they've got to take down the Soviet Union and Putin. They've got to take down or control now the Europe nation. Uh, Not only that, but they had to have the UK on board. They had to have what we seen with the G7, the seven leaders. And you know what's really weird is seven leaders, 10 countries. Where did you ever hear that from? Uh, um, um, seven heads and 10 crowns. It's biblical. Look, I mean, think about it. I mean, I did the connection the other night and I went, it can't be. No, maybe I'm wrong. But it just seems weird that in the end days, it's the seven and the 10. Well, now that's what we're looking at is they have pulled us down to be the superhighway of all nations. So they want us to, the reason they're bringing all of these countries into ours is because it will be a nation of nations. The world, um, it'll be the world of the national people. It won't be people of the United States. It'll be a national United States, to where people from all over the world will be able to use our money for their countries. And that's what we're seeing. Uh, and, a lot of this with the Obamas was they had to put in they had to get first it was the Health and Human, and then it was our CDC. We had to get us on board with the UN. We had to get us in tune with the World Health Organization. Then it had to be the one uh, World Church. Remember, we started seeing all these one uh, us working with the rest of the world as Obama was slipping everybody into place. And why? Because the next thing they must do is our justice system. And you guys heard me talk about this. And what do they have now? They have Soros. That now we have Antifa, we have BLM, we have paid protesters. And who are these protesters? But protesters from all over the world, right here in the United States. And there's enough in every single city to push forward the the agenda of what they want to do with the takedown of the United States. And what gets me is, well, I'm hearing noises. um, um, so what we are seeing right now is the fall of the justice system, like we have seen in other countries where they want to get ready to take down a sitting president. Will they take the next one down? Not if we can get control of the House and the Senate. And they have to get rid of the guns, just like they did in Ukraine. Um, until they took all the guns away, it was hard for them. They started, get this, in 2000, right about 2003 and 4, they really did start working on Ukraine. And by the time 2008 came around, um, this is when they started, the protesters. They started pushing to take down everybody in power in Ukraine. And it was, like I said, it never had anything to do with the Soviet Union or Putin until they had to blame somebody, or they had to get Putin involved, so they could demonize them. They could take over. That's why I always say, and even William has said it, that the United States owns Ukraine. And so, with that in place, and this is why we can't end the war in Ukraine, folks, because we have to take down the Soviet Union. And the problem is China's protecting Russia, and I say power to them, because we don't need this one world, or this world order taking down our country. And this has been a plan of the Democrats and the liberals for decades. And I told you this all the way back to when the Democrats first uh, became a political power. Um, and boy, I got more, folks. I have much more of what we haven't even moved into the Biden administration. But I I wanted to keep the CIA with the Clintons and the boys on the track, all together, to show you what they were doing. And now you say, what's this got to do with the boys on the track? It shows you how the CIA works. It shows you the CIA is a lot more into stuff than we ever dreamed. And what are we talking about? If you go all the way back to um, Vietnam, where they were doing the drugs, they were doing drugs and guns. The CIA does guns and drugs for Iran Contra. And then after that, it was drugs, guns, and human trafficking. Um, why are we letting fentanyl into our country? Uh, you know, uh, and that was in the CIA. Part of the end of the CIA report is that our government and the CIA and our State Department, the Department of Justice, which is Garland and Mayorkas, they know, and they are letting the fentanyl come in. But why? We don't know. We don't know. I don't know. I can have my opinions. They have made sure it has hit every uh, major city in every state. I don't know what the plan is. Um, Maybe it's just the new drug of choice, and not cocaine, and not heroin, and not marijuana. It could be the new drug of choice, because they're doing opioids, but they're doing guns with it, and they're doing human trafficking. So this is what the CIA is a part of. It's never. Why do you think Trump wanted to dissolve the CIA? Yeah, is because he knew these are just a corrupt organization that legally gets away with what they want, and they're paid by us, the taxpayers, to go and do this. I never thought that the CIA, when growing up, I always thought of this as a G-man, and they were for good. Um, they got twisted along the way, and now what's to think of the FBI and the NSA and the DNI, or DSI also? What do we think of these? As we had Snowden come out and say, look, they're listening to all of you. They're tracking you all. They're trying to take over. Snowden tried to warn us. Julian Assange, the same thing. He pulled out all those emails of how they were trying to take over our country. And what did he have to do? He had to run. And they are going to, if the United States gets a hold of them, they're going to lock them up. And the thing, to end this up for tonight, I just want to tell you that we have been waiting on CIA records from um, Hillary Clinton, her Rose law firm, something from the CIA, FBI, for a very long time. And we have requested. There's certain files we were looking for. And what was it? It was a part of those 33,000 emails. There's stuff in there about the boys. And lo and behold, there's only a very few copies. One we can't get the copies of, it's pretty much redacted. There is a set, and we did find them. And even my girls at the Capitol had seen it. Uh, Lo and behold, um, when we went to looking for it, we discovered that the state capitol, Hillary Clinton has got an office there, and on her office, in her office, she's got this big, beautiful desk, and she's got little furniture that's sitting around with a little coffee table, and lo and behold, on that coffee table was our records that were found. She's had them all these years. Not only that, but we want those 33,000 emails, because what happened here, it's not just the boys on the track. It's what they did to our state. It's the people they put in power, the people they took with them, they put in power. It's all this information that they have been talking amongst each other, like Victoria Newland was saying, oh, it was a coup. There is so much information in those 33,000 emails that not only could it help us go after Hillary Clinton and the rest of them, not just Hillary, Obama, the Bush family, the Biden family, the Schumers, the Schiffs, the Pelosi's, Feinstein's, but she's about croaked anyway. It has the information in there for us to go after and prosecute these people. And do we have them? I don't know. I heard that they were found. I heard that we are now fighting for those 33,000 emails. But what's in the middle of all of that is the boys on the track and some of the info that proves the connection between Hillary Clinton and, or the Clintons, Bill Clinton, and the boys. And there is no statute of limitation on murder, and we need those files. Um, Now, according to those looking into the boys on the track, those files were found, but I don't know if they're letting us have them, or if they turned them over, or if they filed them, classified it, and closed it. So we're not sure. Um, um, so as we move on with the boys on the tracks, folks, we're going to go into the heart of it. We're going to let you know who did what and how we know that Bill and Hillary Clinton was a part of this. And I mean, this has been long. I've been working for months with you guys on the boys on the track, but I really wanted to show you what our government has been doing with the Clintons all this time. I mean, we have went from their college years to when they were attorney general to where they were governor. Now we gotten to the point where they're president, and now we've seen them with the CIA and how they have worked with this world order and the CIA to take down a lot of this world. And so next time I do the show on the boys on the tracks, we're going to get into the nitty gritty of the case. And so you guys totally understand. Now, Karen has seen the boys on the track, but not like this. I bet she's learning something from all of this. And I'll have to put them all together on a playlist to where maybe it's after it's all said and done, you guys can go back, because I'm putting a lot of weeks in between. Um, and it's just so you guys know the evil and how possible this is, for how corrupt the Clintons are, and how corrupt the Democrat government is. I mean, we've heard about Maxine Waters, and her corruption. We've heard about Pelosi. We've heard Schumer, Schiff, Cheney, McCain, Bush. It's both parties. That's why I keep saying it's don't depend on our own party, because we have those corrupt, even Mitch McConnell. Um, and so as we move on, check your notifications in your settings. Why is that? Um, I don't know why. Keep hitting the bell. Uh, uh, does anybody have any questions? If you guys have any questions on this, whether it's Ukraine, Afghanistan, all of this with these FBI files, this is what I got threats over, folks. And I'm gonna tell you straight up, I got some death threats over this file of what I'm giving you guys. And it was scary. I had to talk it over with my family. Um, I had to make sure my family is safe. Um, and I went ahead and I pushed forward with this. You know, I've always said I'm not afraid of Hillary Clinton. I'm not afraid of the Clintons. I have nothing. When you have nothing, you're nothing to them. Um, they probably don't want me to talk. No, no, they don't want me talking. And um, I'm, you know, it's why I have a gun, and it's why I protect myself. It's why um, I do the shows. This is why I do the shows. It's all started off with the boys and exposing the Clintons for what they've done. And it, you know, when they corrupted our state and they killed so many, um, and so many have died, so many suicides, so many arkancides, so many disappearances. And I just knew they were going to take it to Washington. And when they did, and I seen it unfolding before my eyes, I mean, look at where we're at today. They went in the 90s, and we're now sitting in 2023, and they still affect of what's going on today. So, um, the bell, yes, always. You just got notice. Uh, uh, did you miss something, Karen? Just not this one. I I don't know. Maybe because Corruption Files is boy, it's the one I fight for, folks. I have had more strikes with Corruption Files than any other show. Well, then again, I did get it for the Winchester House of Mystery, um, being Mrs. Claus. My brother got it for Q. Um, and basically, a lot of copyrights I get because I like showing a lot of neat videos, and they don't want me showing neat videos. Um, uh, so I don't see any questions. You know, the big thing I say about the Clintons, folks, is I've told, and Karen will even say this. I even say it to Rendy. I sleep with the Clintons. I breathe the Clintons. I bleed the Clintons. I everything about the Clintons I know. I mean, I could still smell Hillary Clinton from the 80s. Boy, she's got a smell. Um, and I look into everything I could possibly look into. And if there's someone in the state that knows something, I get a hold of them. I want to know exactly what is going on with Bill and Hillary Clinton. I want to know when they're in my state. I want to know about his hookers. I want to know about the people he raped, the women he bit, his son. Um, Everything about Bill and Hillary Clinton, I breathe it. And I probably know more about the Clintons than probably most talk show people. Um, and I just wish they'd put me on their show because, boy, they could learn about the Clintons if they talked to me. So, yeah, Circa de Sol, I got it for that too, but that was Mrs. Claus. Um, the Circus de Sol, I had permission to use their videos, and I got a strike for them and Mrs. Claus. So um, you're just going to go back and listen. So, um, uh, well, Karen, now the last time we did the Boys on the Track, I didn't have all this. I didn't add in the CIA files. I didn't go through the Clintons' college years. I didn't go through their early years before the governor and then their governors. I have went through a lot of the corruption of the Clinton corruption and then the Boys on the Track. I just put it all together. And, you know, if I was to do a whole show on all of it, it'd probably be 20, 30 hours worth. And so I'm giving you details of what happened here, and I'm adding in what's going on now that shows what they did in the 80s is always meant to what's happening to us now. It was always the plan. Um, so subscribe, and I want to welcome all the new viewers that we had added on over the last couple days. We get quite a few every week. And if you are over on, we had quite a few join on um, Investigator News Network. So I'm going to have to start showing some shows over there. We ask that you add Investigator News 2. Um, and if you want to be part of our Facebook, we are on Facebook under Investigators. Um, and now on our Facebook page, you get a lot of info. I put articles, I put jokes, I put all of our shows on there. And that way, if you can't find us on YouTube and you've got Facebook, you can watch us that way also. And you just have to hit the follow and the like, and you'll be notified. We do get strikes on Facebook to where they knock us down on who could see us. But just keep looking. Just look the page over and you'll find us. And so over here on YouTube, you might have to do the bell every time. I think I think I'm a bad girl, and they just don't let my bell ring. I got my bell over here. Over here. Yeah, just because they keep doing away with my bell on YouTube. So I hung a bell there just so I know I still got my bell. Yeah, I'm gonna ring my bell. Remember that song, Ring My Bell? I can't even remember who did it back early 70s. But yeah, ring that bell, hit the like. Noticing we're getting more and more likes, and we're becoming where they put us on the main uh, the main YouTube highway to where you can see us more on the pages with the other guys. So, and soon I hope that David Hodges gets a hold of me and gets me back on his show again. Um, I have a lot of info, folks, and I look into a lot, and I'm a Heinz 57 of news. And so, um, please enjoy your 4th of July. We have trivia tomorrow night. There will be no show on Monday because of 4th of July, and I have kids that want to do fireworks, and their mom is working, so I get to light them all. See if I don't burn myself. Trivia is going to be kind of fun, a little bit different. I had some stuff from earlier this week, and it'll be 4th of July trivia. So with that, yeah, here you go. All right. With that, folks, we will see you tomorrow night for trivia. It's one of my favorite shows. So come on back and for trivia. And next week, it probably won't be the boys. I have got something different that I found. I wanted to do it tonight, and I hope I'm not running it too late. But I got something, probably a good hour show on things that are going on with Joe Biden and his family. So, with that, folks, I will see you all tomorrow. Have a wonderful Friday night and Saturday, and enjoy your 4th of July weekend. Get the hot dogs on the grill, and, some of my favorite Ruffled chips, and maybe some brownies and some watermelon. Bye bye, folks, and God bless.